Hello and welcome to Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. I hope you're all well. Now, today we have something a little bit different. Celebrating Mother's Day on Sunday really got me thinking about some of the stories we've heard over the years on this very podcast. We've shared some gorgeous moments and felt all the emotions. We've laughed until we've cried, and sometimes we have literally just cried. And that's all right. And so I thought this would be the perfect time to reflect on some of those conversations. I really think celebrate what it means to be a mum. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the messy, the smelly, the wonderful, and the downright ridiculous. So let me take you back to some of my favourite bits of motherhood wisdom, and let this be a little reminder that no matter what challenges you're facing today, we are all in this together. Today's guest is a singer, a songwriter, a producer. She's won a Brit Award, an Ivor Novello Award. She has won a Grammy Award. And she's also had a baby this year. It's Camille.
For me, the most interesting thing has been like the weeing in the face. He weed in my mouth the other day.
Yes.
He did wee in my mouth.
So it's because they're cold. So if you put a flannel, if you put a flannel over their bits, it stops them. Weeing on you. Yeah. I mean, I think I was on third child by the time I worked that out. But I mean, otherwise, I would say 90% of nappy changes, I would get. There would be wee everywhere.
Yeah, he weed in my mouth. He did wee in my mouth. He did. I fully accept that happened. Oh my gosh. He's so cute though. He's so cute.
Well, what was it like that first chunk of time, like leaving the hospital and going home? You put a gorgeous video of Tommy like walking through the house.
I know. Oh my God, you saw it. We were just so scared because do you know what it was? Because the birth went, as much as that story was a bit traumatic, because it was such a quick and happy, healthy birth and everything went really well. I thought I'd be in there for like a week. So I packed enough to like bloody go to New York and back. Do you know what I mean?
Suitcase.
Babe, I had a massive suitcase. Like I'm talking a full 32 kg suitcase of stuff. And they were like, right, you can go home now. Me and Tommy were like...
But I haven't even eaten my snacks.
We're not ready.
Yet.
I literally hadn't eaten snacks. I literally had not eaten snacks. I hadn't warmed up my food. And they were like, yeah, you can go home tomorrow. In the morning, we went home. And it just felt like, are you guys sure you want to allow us to walk out of here with this child? Because they are so chill about you just walking out with the baby. And me and Tommy just didn't feel ready at all. So we packed him in this, in the car and everything. And it was raining. I remember it just started heavily raining. And I was like, oh my God, the rain's going to touch him. Something might happen to him. And we were so worried. And then we got him home. And I remember we walked over the front door with this baby. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is incredible. And he was just looking around the house and looking at us. And it was a beautiful moment. I'll never forget that moment of my son coming home.
Yeah.
And Tommy just felt so proud. Like he proper took that role of a dad straight away. He was incredible.
Did the house feel different with him in it?
Yeah, it felt like a home immediately. It felt like a home. Everything made sense. Because me and Tommy just been tinkering around in this house.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we decided to get such a big house together, but we were just so extra. We were like, we're going to live in Surrey. Let's live the life. But I mean, the house was made a home when our baby came home. Yeah, he's just the best. It makes life feel real and feel fulfilled. It really does.
You posted a video about 6 days after birth, I think it was, or 6 days after, a week after bringing him home. And you were both so happy. And I can remember in the comments, in your sort of copy part of the caption, you'd written, one thing I've realised is that don't believe other people when they say, all the negativity that might come at you. Like you were saying about the sleep, get all the sleep and all that stuff.
Oh, shut up.
You were just sort of like, actually, we're fine. And we don't have to listen to other people, and you'll be okay, essentially.
If that's the one thing I've learned is to not listen to anyone who tells you anything, even if it's someone you love. And everyone's going to tell you stuff from their experience, their fears, their issues. Like for me, example, I could go and say to someone now, don't get an epidural, but I mean, it's fine if you get an epidural, so I wouldn't say that to you. And I've learned just to not listen to people because your experience will be absolutely fine. Being a parent is really not that hard. It's just not. I can't sit here and go, because you'll find a way.
Yeah.
You actually do find a way. You're still alive. We're still here doing it, aren't we? We're fine. We're still alive. I only just had one from months ago, and I'm here doing an interview. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's doable. And I wish I never listened to everyone going, "Oh, make sure you enjoy your last sleep."
Well, I guess as well with you, like for you, knowing that you did have this album coming out and you had a newborn, did you feel like it was almost a countdown? Like you had to, that time was almost going. And I know you still have, you know, your time with at home and fully doing that. But did you feel like there was kind of a countdown?
I did a little bit. I did, because obviously your due date is approaching, and it really does feel like a big countdown. But I feel like my whole life has been a countdown, if I'm honest. I feel like my whole career has been a countdown. I've been wanting to be an artist from the day I started music. It just wasn't the right time. And I feel like countdowns exist all around us. So I just took it like, I'm just going to do this anyway. I just see it like a big melting pot of creation. I don't see it like one has to exist or the other one can't. I'm just like, let's just go for it and see what happens.
I mean, you are someone who just goes and gets, like we talked about before. But do you think motherhood has propelled that further? Yes.
It's propelled it further because now I simply don't have time. I have maybe 2 hours. I have windows. Everyone knows, every mother knows about the windows. You have a window, a crucial window. When your child is asleep, you better do what you need to do in this window. If you take your time, if you start scrolling on Instagram or doing some crap, you've wasted your window, babe. So you have to use the time well. So now it's made me even more like, okay, I've got 2 hours. Like the other day I had to finish mixing a song. I had 2 hours to do it, which was usually taking me the whole day. I got in that studio, I got it done. So now I'm even more, I feel like, ambitious and more aware of my time. And I respect my time so much more than I did before, my free time. That's why if I am doing something with my career, it means more now, because I've had such a little time to do that. And I thank my son for that, because he definitely has shaved down my 3 hours.
That's very true. I think you have tried in the past to juggle with a newborn and being in the studio.
Oh, I have. There's a video online of me actually doing it. And I mean, it's so funny as well, 'cause I don't know if you know Fred again. He's a really good friend of mine, an amazing artist. But he came over to meet the baby the other day, and we were in the studio making music for his new album, actually. And the baby is all over the song. Like,
really?
my son is literally going, ah, ah, ah. It's so funny. I'm going to post it. But I mean, you just have to make it work, don't you?
Absolutely.
What else are you going to do?
There is no other option.
There's no other option, especially as the mum. One thing my mum always said to me, right, and it's not negative, she saw it as a positive. She said, when you're a mother, you have to realise, in fact, when you're a woman, you have to realise that you are the mother. It doesn't matter what happens, it doesn't matter how many partners are around you or how much family you have around you, it falls on you at the end of the day. It will always fall on you. And I've really, really felt that. Not that I don't have help. I have so much support from everyone around me, but I definitely feel like I am his mum. Like I'm probably the most important right now thing to him, because I provide him with the milk and I provide him with that comfort. When no one else can get him to stop crying, for example, he'll be on me for 2 seconds and he'll stop. So you definitely feel that pressure and that importance. And my mum always said that to me. She said, you're going to realise that how important it is being a mother.
I can't tell you how excited I am for today's guest, mainly because she has 4 boys, not a measly 3 like mine. Hello, Colleen Rooney.
Hello. I always thought I'd have 3 children. That was like, I always thought, I quite like 3 children. I don't know whether that was because I was one of 3, then obviously we got Rosie, but I did always have, you know, I was set on 3. And I think because I had the boys quite young, I felt like I had more time to go on, and I would probably end up having another one. So we sat down and talked, and we said, you know, what would you like? Like, obviously we asked each other, and I said, I probably will go on and want another one. So then we decided to do it sooner than later, I think, you know, and have them all, you know, together and not too much of a gap. And then once Cass come along, we knew that was it. And it's not the caring for. I could look after loads of kids. And
it gets to a certain point where you're just like...
Yeah, it's attention. I can't give them that individual. And I get a bit caught up on, you know, I like to make sure that they've got my time. And I do stuff, like in the summer holidays, I make sure that I take them all individually somewhere, maybe with a friend or on their own, so that they have had that mum and son time. But when you're in the house and it's all manic, they don't get that individual. So to go on and have more children, I felt like I haven't got enough time now to give them all that attention. So if someone else comes along, if they did, you'd do it. You'd get on and you would do it. But that was what was in the back of my mind. So why not to have any more children?
Let's talk about the chaos. You have 4 boys. Like I have 3, and I feel like a massive part of my mothering role has been refereeing.
Yes.
It feels like they can't walk past each other without an arm or a leg flying out. It's constant.
Constant. It's exactly the same in mine. It's like a domino effect. The eldest picks on the next one, that one picks on that one, that one picks on that one. And I've had friends who have had girls first and then they have a boy and they go, oh, I think there's something wrong with him. I said, no, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just a boy. He's very active. They don't sit still. Whereas girls, you find you can go to a restaurant, they'll colour in and they'll get on with whereas mine are just up and running around and you try and control them. The more you try and control them, the louder it gets.
See, that's the thing. Like, and this is something I'm actually discovering recently, and I don't know why, I'm only just discovering it. I feel like if I try and fight it, it actually gets worse.
Yeah.
So how do you remain sort of calm, or do you just have to embrace it?
I'm at the point now where they'll all go outside and they'll all go out happy and say, are you coming? Are you coming? Let's go and play football. I wait for the cry. Who's going to be first in crying because someone's tackled them or someone's done this, someone's done that, and I expect it. But
that's like when they're laughing, when they're all having an amazing time. There's going to be a tip.
Yes.
There is, but you don't want to stop that laughter.
I know. Well, I just know once they say, "Do you want to come and do this with me?" I'm thinking, what's the intention? Like, are you doing it for a fun time, or are you doing it to make him cry? And at the minute, the thing my boys are doing is getting boxing gloves on and all going on the trampoline. So the trampoline's got, a netting round. So it's some sort of like cage fighting type thing. And all you see is them bouncing and then punching and kicking. But I say, no, someone's going to get hurt. And they go, no, we love it. I'm thinking, oh, please. And
that's the thing. Sometimes you've just got to let it play out.
I like them doing stuff together. And that's where you think, oh, maybe it will work out, but it never does.
Do you find that the things that they're doing together are generally chaos and a little bit rebellious?
Yes, yeah. And they do stuff together so that if they get caught, they can blame someone else. So mine will say, oh, no, it wasn't me, it was him. But because they're in a pack, they can all blame each other and you're not just focused on one.
It's a total pack. And I think also because there is that chaos and mayhem, when there are moments of calm, it is so amazing. It's so beautiful. Like I had 2 of my youngest 2, so my 7-year-old was helping my 5-year-old with his reading the other night. It's really calm in bed. A brilliant teacher, whereas at the rest of the time, they'll all be quite manic and on each other.
I do find when you get 2 of them on their own, it works. Yeah. Once you put that 3rd one in the mix or the 4th one, that's when the chaos happens. And I took my 2 youngest to visit Wayne when he was in America. The older 2 have football tournaments, so my parents took them to the football tournaments, and I took the 2 younger ones. It was so nice because my 7-year-old was a child again. Yeah. When he's with the older ones, he tries to act older and he'll just be doing sport and stuff. He's not actually sitting playing. Whereas the 2 of them were playing with figures. And it was just so nice to see, because I feel like the more you have, the less childhood they have, and they just grow up. And when my youngest started preschool, he would come out and say, Mum, Mum, and everyone was looking, why is he calling her Mum and not Mummy? And like, he's the 4th one. It's like, and they were all on the first one and everyone's Mummy, Daddy, and he's just like Mum, Dad, because he's got it off the older ones. Like, yeah.
I think Tom is Dad, but I am still Mummy at the moment.
I'm Mum.
But Mama, where did that go? Like all of that?
Mama, And even my eldest, like I was Mama and my mum was Mama Clett, and I always thought she's had like it was a nice ring to it. But now she's nan now and I'm mum. And I think you have to encourage it, whereas I probably never encouraged it from the beginning.
Yeah.
See, I've got a friend and all her children, her oldest is 15 now and she's still mama. But her mum is mama. So it's
nice.
Yeah, it's a nice thing.
I absolutely love that. Colleen, if you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to and what would you say?
I would write it to myself and I would explain that having a child is a complete life changer. There's so many good things, however there is difficult times. Obviously, what we've talked about is it is a shock and it's not just you to think about anymore. You have got this massive responsibility and life does change, but you've got to make the best of it. I think for me, preparation and organisation is a good way to get by being a mum. Things go smoother and easier if you do plan. So you'll never feel a love like you do with your children. It's a totally different love. Just make the most of it and don't get eaten up and distracted and let that take your time away from your children, which I've learned recently is even though I was physically there looking after my children, mentally I wasn't. And that is my biggest regret from that court case is that I was so distracted and just wasn't there for my kids. But everyone around me understood and it was, it wasn't me. And now I can say I'm so happy to be Colleen again. And that's what I've got back from family and friends is she's back.
Yeah. What I love as well is that it doesn't matter how old your kids are, you're still learning.
Yes.
Like we both said during this chat recently, I've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
So you can always, if everything always evolves.
You get so many different situations that you've never been in before and you always learn from it, whether it's a good thing, you're going through a good thing or a bad thing. But I think, it's good to learn. Yeah. It's good to take on board that, it's even like what you tell your children, you can make a mistake because you learn from it. Yeah. And that's what I do tell my children is, I'm honest with everything. And if they ask me the question, I will honestly answer it because I want them to, obviously when you read the book, I talk about Wayne's mistakes and I don't want my boys to do that. And I say, it wasn't right, but we've moved on and, we can make things right. And that is a big thing that I want my children to realise that, we do make mistakes in life, but we've got to learn not to do them again.
Describes herself as a Daily Mail's worst nightmare, a gay, Muslim, British Pakistani, Tory-hating social worker from a working class background, not fitting in, has been the default position for most of her life. I read that and I thought, I need to talk to her. So here she is. It's Isma Almas.
Hello, thanks for having me. I think what any adopted child or any child that's in foster care goes through, the sense of loss and trying to reconcile, the transition in their life is massive. If we're just like as an adult, if you're suddenly taken away from your family, your partner, your parents, your kids, and if you were planted in a new house with strangers and told, forget about
and I guess that's the thing.
life.
Do you not? You can't keep up those ties at all. It's kind
you
of
can absolutely. And we tried really hard to. So we had photo albums for him to kind of look at of his foster carers, and we've met them since. And he remembers them, and they're very much part of his history and his life, and they, and I hope they always will be.
How long did it did it take for him to settle, I guess?
I think the first time I don't know if it was for him to settle or for me to feel like I was his mum. So I don't know if that is the same thing, but I know the first time that I felt like, wow, was the first time he went to nursery, and it was about a year after he'd been with us. And we took him to nursery, and he was, we hadn't left him with anyone. And I think we'd only left him for, I think it was like an hour without us at the nursery. So it was a very trial, the initial introductions. And I think he was only going to go, for like 2 sessions a week or something. And the first time we went to collect him, and he saw me. And he just came running up to me and threw his arms around my neck and just clung to me. And I think that was the first time that I felt like, wow, I miss Mum.
Oh,
yeah.
Must be so difficult because that's what you want.
Yeah.
And did you feel like there was some sort of disconnect up until that moment? Did you feel like, that you weren't quite his mum? Was it just in that moment that everything fell into place?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I was, faking it till I made it for so long. And I was referring to myself as mummy and referring to myself as, his mum. But what you say and what you feel are often two very different things.
Yeah.
In my Edinburgh show that I did, I talked about him rejecting me because he had, this is true for many, many adopted kids that they've lost their birth mum.
Mm-hmm.
They then go into foster care, and in foster care, primarily the main carer, the primary carer is a woman. They then might go into another foster home or another. So they get moved around, and pretty soon they learn from a very young age that actually mummies are not to be trusted. They don't stick around, they leave you.
Mm-hmm.
So to protect themselves from losing yet another mummy, what kids sometimes do is they reject the female carer. And I think because I'd been a mum, I had been the primary carer, I'd kind of always thought, that is not going to be me.
Yeah.
If our adopted child, if our child rejects anyone, it's going to be her. Because she's not a biological parent,
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm very maternal. I was the broody one. So it was a massive shock to the system when it happened, and it was me. And so I'd been with him, reinforcing myself as mummy, and but he took his time, shall we say, to call me mummy.
And how have your daughters been with your son?
Oh my God, incredible! And at times, because they're like older now, they're like 25 and 21. So now sometimes if he's pissed off with me and my partner, he's almost like okay, I've got another 2. He's like, I don't need you to. Bye. He's absolutely. I think he's our world.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. Yeah.
Has it surprised you how you feel as a mum through adoption?
Yeah, it has. And what has really surprised me, is I think I'd done a lot of preparation myself about, that whole thing about if he behaves in a certain way, you might not instinctively know why he is behaving like that or why he said a certain thing. It's not that I know it. When he says something or does something or, something happens, I completely have the same instinctive knowledge about why he's done it, and if I say to him, have you done that because of this, are you saying that because, and he's like, yeah, how do you know, and
Because as a mother you watch.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that bond, oh my God, the same instinctive bond, the love, everything is there, more so, I'd say, for him than it is for my other 2. I won't tell them that. Yeah, he is just, I feel like, I feel like I've waited such a long time for him to come along.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah. And I feel in lots of ways that I've waited my whole life for him. Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, he's completely the love of my life.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so gorgeous.
Yeah, he is just gosh, he's just, yeah. Oh, he's lovely.
And it's amazing to think that you chose that pairing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If at any other time that you'd have looked into it, if it was a year before, if you didn't take that break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what surprises me as well is how much, like the little quirks that he has, you know, what he's picked up, and I don't know, kind of nature, all of that, how unlike my other two he is, and how unlike me and my partner he is. You know, it's like, wow.
Today's guest I'm very excited about because I've been wanting to speak to her for a very long time. She was originally on our screens many moons ago in The Only Way is Essex. She's done so much since then. It's Lydia Bright.
Hello. I'm living the dream, really, because I've got a career and I've got a child. And I really loved it and enjoyed it, and it was so manageable. I'm one of these people as well, I've always got to be doing things.
Yeah.
So I think for me, if I did have to completely stop, I don't know if I would feel fully fulfilled. Like if I did just completely stop, I think for me, I've always had to have like my brain ticking.
Yeah.
And then it got to her turning 1, and then it became harder to manage because, as we know, they stopped napping for as much. So it became hard to manage, and I was still so busy. It wasn't slowing down like all of the, you know, lovely mummy sort of stuff. And my parents were helping out when they could, and I was just kind of like juggling. But then also, where my career isn't a normal 9 to 5, I can kind of work whatever hours I want. So I'd put her to bed, and then I'd film a lot of my content, or I'd edit things, and I'd do my contracts and stuff then. But then I was up till quite late. So it got to about 16 months when it was like really hard to manage.
Yeah.
So I was like, shall I consider nursery? And I just felt so guilty for thinking it, because I was like, she should be with me. She's too young. And a lot of nurseries as well take at 2, don't they? Like what I found around where I live, it was a lot of nurseries take till 2. So I was like, oh my gosh, the majority of mums obviously don't send their children till they're 2 because of...
That's quite late.
Yeah. A lot of nurseries that I was approaching, they were like, we don't take till they're 2. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't be even considering it then.
Well, if you think most maternity leaves...
Some of them are like 6 months, aren't they? Exactly.
Yeah. So those kids have to go somewhere.
Exactly. I just felt so awful for like even considering it. But, you know, and I could have just turned down the work and just not sent her. But I was like, I really enjoy this. And I don't want to like put this like on pause, and then, you know, who's to say that I could just pick it up again. And I thought, I really want to do the both. And I felt guilty about wanting to do the both.
Did you vocalise the fact that you were feeling guilty? Because I'm sure had you vocalised that, you would have got an influx of people going, I felt that.
Yeah, I did. And this is why I think like people are all quick to like shun down social media. But like, I think it's like such a great community for people. And yeah, like I'd constantly be like asking things on Instagram, and people would be like, you know, it's fine, and I'm a mum, and I did this, and so yeah, a lot of people would give me like support and reassurance, but I just think sometimes it's just like a mental battle with myself. And I think as well, where me and Loretta, obviously, I was a single mum, and although we locked down with my parents, at this point now we were living back at my home.
Yeah.
We slept together. She'd only ever like slept every night with me. At that point, she'd never done like any overnights at my parents. We'd always been together, and where it was locked down, like I don't think I had a night out until she was like 2. We'd never been apart from each other. When I first sent her to nursery, the separation anxiety was hell. Like I would come away from the nursery in floods of tears, and then I wouldn't even be able to work for the first hour. And I'd be like playing with like my head, like, shall I just go back and pick her up? And that went on for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, she just never wanted to go to nursery. And the thing is as well, Loretta started talking really early as well. So it was also a curse because she'd be like...
Able to actually vocalise what she was thinking.
Yeah, she'd be like, no, I stay with mummy, please, no, mummy. And I'd be like crying at the nursery door. And then it just got better. And now, like, she really enjoys nursery.
Yeah.
She's got all her little best friends. And I do think it's important, you know, it's an important element of childhood for them to have that, like, independence.
Yeah.
And also as well, like, I wouldn't have been able to buy the house that we live in now had I have not worked that hard in those 2 years and took up all those opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's like the compromise.
Providing
battle.
means many different things.
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
exactly. And it was like a dream. Like we moved back to the house that I renovated, but I didn't have a garden. It was like I really just want to buy a house with a garden, and you know, and I really want to. So it's like, you know, I did have to send her to nursery when she was 16 months old, but we wouldn't have this beautiful home that we're living in now that she loves. And so you just have to make compromises, like with the milk and, you know, breast milk and formula. It's compromising with, you know, all the outcomes, and there's loads of factors.
Yeah. If you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to and what would you say?
I think I would write a letter to myself when I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you know, share that with anyone that's facing pregnancy alone. Because as I said, you know, when I was going through it, it was the worst thing in the world, but I'm not the first person that it's happened to, and I won't be the last. And I think it can be a really scary time. And I think I would just write to myself and say, when this baby comes, it will be the best thing that ever happens to you. And everything will work out, and you'll find a flow, and you'll find a dynamic that works for you. And don't worry what everyone else thinks, because that's a massive factor, I think. Whilst I was so nervous when I was pregnant, I think pre-children and maybe just like youth, you worry so much about what everyone thinks of you.
Yeah.
And I think when you have children, you really grow into yourself and feel confident in the decisions that you've made, and you become more assertive and stronger. And I think I would just tell myself, like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks and anyone's judgments. You live your life the way that you want to live your life. And the more that you worry less about what other people think, the happier you'll be.
Yeah. So we end each episode with you completing 3 sentences, and this one segues very nicely.
Yeah.
Being a mum means.
Being a mum means making someone else your priority. You're no longer the leading character in your own life, are you? A new person is. And they become your entire focus, your entire universe. And whilst that can feel daunting, I also think the innocence and the pureness that comes through children also means that you get like a second chance to live your life.
Yeah.
And you're living it through their eyes. And I just think the world just becomes a lot more colourful because of that.
I like
because they live in like a childhood.
Yeah. Since having a child,
Since becoming a child, I have definitely become stronger, more confident in who I am, more determined, definitely, at like work and, you know, success. And success comes in many different ways. But like, I just feel like a lot more passionate about the things that I do. And I can't remember what the question was. Sometimes I delve off.
Since having a child,
and since having a child. And I just think like life has a better meaning. I think you become happier.
Yeah.
Since having a child, I've definitely become happier.
And I'm happy when?
I'm happy when I am in bed with Loretta, co-sleeping, and we have that like, I'd say 30 minutes before it becomes annoying that she's not going to sleep.
There's a window. There's always a window.
Actually, I'm going to reduce that. 20 minutes before it becomes annoying that she's not going to sleep. And she's trying so hard not to go to sleep. So she comes up with all these conversations and they're so imaginative. And she's so loving because she doesn't want me to have a go at her for not going to sleep. And it's just blissful and peaceful. And we're getting ready for bed. And we're all bathed and relaxed. And she's just chatting, avoiding sleep. And
about 20 minutes. Then after that, that's not
minutes.
Happy, but
yeah, after that, the 20 minutes becomes frustrating. But that window is lovely.
It's the happy time.
Yes.
Today's guest is someone I have absolutely loved listening to and watching over the last few years. She's a DJ, she's a presenter, she's just brilliant, and she's a mum of 2 as well. And she's the first guest ever to bring snacks into the studio. It's Ashley James.
Also had quite a traumatic birth, and I think doing it all again with Ada has actually been very healing because it's made me realise that actually my feelings were really valid. It was really tough the first time round, and it wasn't necessarily that I did anything wrong or, that I was being pathetic, because that's the thing in my mind. I've always prided myself on like having a high pain threshold, so I'll be fine in birth because I've run marathons, or lack of sleep. I was like, I'll be fine because I'm a DJ, so I'm used to a lack of sleep. I'll be fine. And then when I started to really struggle with all of it, I felt pathetic. I was like, people have it worse than you. Like, you should be able to do this. You're being weak-willed. You're being pessimistic. And I really dug myself down. Yeah. Whereas this time, Ada, she's a very different baby, but it was also, the whole thing has been a completely different experience. And it's been amazing. And actually, I want to give new mum Ashley a bit of a hug, because I'm like, it actually was really hard. Yeah. And you did okay.
Yeah. And that's, I think when people listen to conversations about motherhood, even if they're 20 years out of that experience, and they listen to an experience that was similar to their own, and they feel like connected and they can relate, I think you can even heal years after. And I love that. That's why I think it's so important that those conversations are being had and out there.
Have you heard this thing about flamingos when they become mums?
No.
I love this idea. I think about it all the time. So when a flamingo becomes a parent, they lose their pink. And it takes a few years for their pink to come back. And they say because they give so much of themselves to their babies that they lose their pink for a while. And I think that represents a lot of new mums' journeys really well. So I like to think that I'm only just starting to find my pink again now that Alf's 2.5. And isn't that amazing?
That makes me really emotional.
Yeah, you do look really emotional. I always think about it now. I'm like, it's like a flamingo. They give everything, that they lose their colour. And I do see it. I see it with so many of my friends who become mums. And I think, it's almost like we're not allowed to talk about it. And that's what makes me sad. If you have a bad birth, it's like, don't scare pregnant people. And of course, don't scare pregnant people. But where do we have a space to be like, I found that really hard, and I know I'm not the first person to have a baby, and I know that I should have expected sleepless nights, but I didn't quite understand sleep deprivation to the point that it's like, I used to think, oh, well, I'm used to partying, so I'll be fine. But I didn't really think that the day after I partied, I could lie on the sofa and watch Netflix, and there was an end to it, and it was a choice to an extent. Obviously, work is work, but there was a choice that you knew that would come to an end. Even if it was 4 days, you're like, oh, okay, the end is in sight. But with Alfie, he was up every hour for a year, and it drove me to insanity, but I didn't know when it was going to stop. Yeah. And then I couldn't focus on anything, but it was like the rest of the world still expected me to be this highly functional person, and I didn't even know who I was or where I was or what day it was. And the flamingo pink, I think, sums up motherhood perfectly.
I love it. I'll be using that massively. I just love that flamingo analogy, and I can remember in the studio with Ashley just really feeling I just wanted to burst out crying, to be honest, which happens a lot on this podcast. It makes you think, doesn't it? Do you feel like you're getting your pink back? Do you feel like, I think we all feel that feeling of being depleted, and that those moments where life all comes together and the kids are all nice together and everyone's smiling and laughing, it can feel like, everything's back in Technicolor. But it just really highlighted to me this journey that we're all on, and the highs and the lows, and the feeling of actually we do give our all. We give our all. So yeah, I don't know about you, but it feels like I have little pockets now that feel very much me again. A new version of me, an altered version. I think you have to go through motherhood and change. I think it's one of those monumental things that you can't just stay. You're never going to be who you were before. But that's because life has taught you things. And in many ways, life is more textured and layered and, just more meaningful than ever. Thank you so much to all of our guests over the years. It's been such an honour to hear your stories. We are 8 years in, and I never tire of sitting in the studio opposite from someone or on the screen if we have to go virtual, remote, and just listening to someone share. It's something that I never get bored of, and I hope that you don't get bored of listening to them either. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm so glad we can be there for you. Before I go though, something special to end this special episode. The tables are being turned, and a special someone is going to basically end the podcast in the way that I end the podcast, by asking me some very important questions.
Hi everyone, it is Tom here. Hello to my wonderful wife, host of this incredible podcast, and most importantly today, and appropriately, mother to our fantastic, chaotic, energetic, and brilliant boys. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mums out there. Happy Mother's Day to my mum. Since this is a Mother's Day special, I have been given the honour of asking you those questions that you ask everyone at the end of your podcast. And I'm doing it today from your greenhouse, just after watering all of your plants that I'm struggling to keep alive. Anyway, here we go. I need to try and remember these. Right. If you could write a letter about motherhood to anyone, who would it be to? What would you say? And why? Maybe I added the why.
Thank you very much, husband. Okay, if I could write a letter. Whew. I suddenly realised why everyone gets a little bit at the end of the podcast when I suddenly turn the tables. If I could write a letter on motherhood, it would be to all the new mums and dads who are finding themselves at the start of their parenting journey and feeling so utterly out of their depth. I think we come into motherhood with a wave of expectation, of ideologies of what we think it's going to look like and feel like. Some of us would have gone and visited friends with newborns or cousins or family members and felt what it's like to have a little newborn in our arms and then just handed them over, and left the house going, oh, wasn't that lovely? And suddenly feeling all broody and, excited about what life would be like when you've got that baby in your arms. It is a different feeling entirely when it is your baby and people leave your sleeping baby and all of a sudden your sleeping baby is no longer sleeping, and it is a wild ride getting through each night and trying to guess at every stage what that cry means, what that thing is, constant Googling, constant just yearning and searching for anything that makes the day a little bit brighter. Wow. So yes, my letter would be for anyone new, kind of going, look, you got this. And I don't mean this in like a poster kind of, you got this kind of way. I just mean this moment is a moment and it will pass. So allow yourself the grace to feel it, to know that you're not on your own in it, and to know that at some point you're going to be looking back at it and kind of still feeling the emotions as I show, I can't not feel them when I talk about certain moments. However, know that you are constantly leading with love and curiosity for this new wave of life. Take pride in all the things that you do. Because there'll be many things that slip through the net. The balls have to drop somewhere. But just know that, the important bits, they don't slip through. The important bits you are there for. You're yearning to get this right. And your yearning as you're learning is the most important, special thing ever. Lead with love, which you obviously will be doing, and you can't really go wrong. I mean, we will go wrong, but lead with love. Okay.
Then the 3 questions that you ask everyone, I'm firing right back at you. Being a mum means... Go.
Being a mum means constantly learning on the job. It's one of those, those wild dreams where, you wake up and you're suddenly put in a position of, in a new role within the office, and suddenly you don't know how anything works. The printer doesn't work. The phone, you can't figure out how to dial through to the other person. How do you load the printer? I don't know. Everyone wants lunch, but you forget to the coffee shop and everything. You forgot the order. For me, being a mum is that. It's kind of landing yourself in a role that you had all these expectations of what it was going to be like, but the reality is something different, and you feel out of your depth and like you don't know what you're doing. But actually, the just simply being there and being mum, you have all the tools. You've just got to stop all the noise so that you can figure out what tool you need when. Being a mum is the most rewarding role you can ever take on. It's messy, it's ugly at times, it is the most beautiful, raw thing ever to be there for someone, to watch them grow, to grow life. It's a messy ride, but it is one that is totally worth it.
Since having children, I have become obsessed with planting tomatoes.
Since having children, I sleep less. And that is not necessarily from their doing. I have this silly thing nowadays where the kids go to bed later because they are now 11, 9 and 6. And they go to bed slightly later. So by the time I come down after the bedtime, it's 8:45, 9 o'clock. And instead of just going, well, I'll have an hour to myself and then go to bed. No. I have to have my 2-3 hours still. So I'm still going to bed at midnight, but then getting up early so that I can get up early and have my shower in place before everyone else gets up for school. So now they're older, I'm not sleeping, but it's not because they're not sleeping through the night. Hurrah, they eventually do. It's because I just like having that little bit of time to myself in the evenings. Oops.
And the last one, it's on the tip of my brain. Hang on a second. Oh, I got it. I'm happy when
everyone else in my family is happy. I can remember Judy Finnegan on the podcast many moons ago saying that you can only be as happy as your unhappiest child. And I totally agree with that. That really hit home. I'm happy when we are all together in the sunshine, in the garden, whether the kids are bouncing around the trampoline or running around, or whether we're playing a game of football and all laughing, and, just those moments of just togetherness. Because I think one thing that motherhood does tend to show you is the fact that that's the stuff. That's the stuff that when we are old, if we have the privilege of getting old, when we are near the end of our life, that's the thing that we will look back on and be grateful for. So I'm happy when I'm with my family and we're smiling and just being totally and utterly in the moment.
Anyway, before I go, I just wanted to say, on behalf of all of your listeners on this podcast, thank you for everything you do, and to all of the fantastic guests that come on. I know how important this is to so many people. So congratulations. Mother's Day is the perfect day to celebrate what an incredible achievement this podcast is. So congratulations, honey, and happy Mother's Day. Yeah, that was the mouse. You have a mouse in your greenhouse. Anyway, happy Mother's Day, everyone. I'm going to go back to keeping your plants alive. Bye.
Thank you for listening, and I shall see you next week for another episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. Bye.